Hello everyone, Nika here with your Daily Neuro Nugget. I hope you're having an amazing Monday. Gather around everybody. I'm going to try to do my best to keep up with the chat, but I wanted to go over some old names that maybe a lot of us have forgotten, and that is Sheriff Duke, right, from Leda County Sheriff's Office. And he was involved. He pulled Bryan Kohberger over back in August 21, 2022. So the reason we are talking about this again is because one of the documents that dropped not too long ago mentions this name, and we want to just get right into it. So I hope that the chat is working here. I can't have too many things pulled up on my laptop because it crashes. So thank you guys for joining me in the live. Hi, Nikki, I see you're here. If you are in here, give it a thumbs up. Also, guys, I've been having issues with the platform, so just bear with me. I'm trying to work with the platform, with YouTube. I tried going live just like a couple minutes ago and it failed, so hopefully it's all good, right? So for those of you saying I don't talk about the teas anymore, here we go. I have cinnamon, hibiscus, ginger, and that's it. Pretty boring, pretty plain, pretty cold actually. So the document I'm covering is the notice of intent to use IDAHO4 evidence, right? And this is just a short 3-page document saying comes now the state of Idaho by and through Ashley Jennings, Latah County Senior Deputy Prosecutor, and hereby gives notice pursuant to Idaho Rule of Evidence 404, the state of Idaho intends to present evidence of crimes, wrongs, or other acts, specifically the video of the traffic stop occurring at West Pullman Road, Farm Road in Moscow, Idaho on August 21st, 2022, involving Bryan Kohberger and Latah County Sheriff's Office, Corporal Darren Duke, right? So I had kind of forgotten about this guy for a little bit, and when we are done here, I will post a picture of him. I did find a couple of images of him on Facebook on the Latah County Sheriff's Office page, just so that you guys can put a face to the name, right? And this document is basically saying, look, we're going to use this video, use it as evidence to prove that the video at the crime scene allegedly was and is, or allegedly belongs to Bryan Kohberger, right? And the citation that took place in this stop is an issue regarding the same traffic stop discovered as Bates. The state intends to introduce this evidence for the purpose of proving the defendant's identity, vehicle address, and phone number. This issue has been previously addressed by the court in the December 15, 2023 sealed order denying motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct. See page 23. Respectfully submitted this 4th day of February 2025. So what it's saying is that the state is going to use this video, this footage of the sheriff pulling Bryan over at this stop that we have all seen like 1,000 times, or we've heard about it. And they're going to say, look, we can verify that this is Bryan, that this is his car, this is his phone number, which is fine, because in that video, we can see Bryan's face, we can see the vehicle, we can see the plates, right? But just because you have a video of somebody getting pulled over in that stop and saying that that is his vehicle, it doesn't mean that you can now use that to say this guy committed the crime. See, it's the same white car. See, this blurry white image, trail of images that we have on the night of the crime from random blurry white cars is the same car. This is the same person. You can't do that, right? But either way, that's what they're going to try to do. So today, I just wanted to revisit Bryan Kohberger's traffic stop back on that day, because this is what the document says, right? That on August 21st, 2022, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources providing coverage to the King Road residents from approximately 10:34 p.m. to 11:35 p.m. At approximately 1:37 p.m., Kohberger was stopped by Latah County Sheriff's Deputy CPL Duke, as mentioned above. The 8548 phone was utilizing cellular resources consistent with the location of the traffic stop during this time. Farm Road and Pullman Highway, right? So Payne's logic has me extremely confused. It has me dumbfounded because we see that Payne is accounting in the affidavit for Bryan Kohberger's traffic stop in Moscow on this day of August 21st, 2022, right? But bear with me, guys. If you look at the location of the stop in Google Maps, if you pull that up, you see that it's right of the entrance of Palouse. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Palouse, Palouse Mall, right? And you can kind of, if you go through Google Images, see that there's like a Marshall store in that area. And you can see that in the Google Map photos as well. So we have Payne, you know, we know that he's the detective. We know that he has minimal experience. We probably know that he has allegedly zero experience in this type of crime before. So he's writing this again to fit the narrative, and he's using this traffic stop. This is why they're pulling this old video from August 21st, 2022 to say, see, Bryan Kohberger was stalking. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, look, we know that he was in the area back in August, meaning that there was some stalking behavior. By the way, we know the state already has even said it themselves. Billy Boy has said it himself. Santa Claus has said it. There is no stalking by Bryan Kohberger, right? And when you look at those images, Google Images by yourself of this stop, in my opinion, all that this really proves is that Bryan Kohberger probably went to the freaking mall. It's literally right there, right at that stop, right in those Google Images. So all we can actually conclude from that video, from that stop, is not that there was any stalking. It's not that there was any following of any victims, which, by the way, again, the state has already told us it did not happen. There was no stalking. It's a fact that they're shopping in that area, and that shopping area is obviously going to be connected to that tower. That is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen a detective, aka Payne, try to do, right? If there's literally a mall right where you're getting stopped, how can you conclude that somebody was stalking somebody else? Bitch, I was just shopping. So Payne, in my opinion, wants us to believe that just because you're connecting that tower to Bryan Kohberger's phone, he wants us to believe that that means that Bryan was in Moscow, near King Road residence, that he was there allegedly stalking the victims 12 times. I'm like, was he just at the mall? Was he just at the mall? Taylor says shopping in Moscow, death penalty, apparently. And that's what I'm saying. We all have to open up our eyes because this is very problematic. It's extremely dangerous because I go to the mall. I know that most people do online shopping, but I every now and then like to go out to the store just because I'm running errands, buying things for the family, for the kids, buying groceries, whatever. It doesn't mean that I'm stalking people who live in the vicinity. It only means that my phone is connecting to those cell towers in the area, right? But Payne is stating that Bryan Kohberger pinged off at that same Moscow tower, but later on, Payne actually backtracks and then says, but he was not actually believed to be in that area. Again, you cannot have it both ways. What is it, Payne? If he is pinging back and forth, sometimes he's in the area, sometimes he's not in the area, what are you trying to say? Because all that sounds like to me is that you're very confused and that you have zero idea of what you're talking about, right? What are you talking about? Again, we can't go back and forth. If it pings, is he there? Is he not there? And again, if it's a small town, if you guys live in small areas, and there's only so many towers and there's a freaking shopping center and you're connecting to that tower, doesn't mean you are stalking anybody, right? So actually, if you pay close attention, Officer Payne actually disproves his own assumptions, his own theory, not only once, but twice within the same affidavit, you know? He doesn't actually show us, he doesn't point to any evidence on why we should believe that Bryan Kohberger was even on Ping Road. Again, this tower is located to other areas, which is Farm Road and Pullman Highway. And then we have the other 12 locations where Bryan Kohberger was allegedly stalking the victims rather than shopping in Moscow. Again, why would Payne jump to that conclusion, right? All that the PCA actually says is that, okay, Payne believes that that's how things went down, and that's why we should also believe it. That we should be idiotic, not ask questions. We should just go with the flow. Because if Payne believes it, then so be it. We should believe it too, right? So I wanted to get that out of my system because, again, I think it can be very difficult, right? We know that there's a lot of legal speak. There are so many legal documents, guys. Every time I go to the idaho.gov website to look at these new documents that have dropped, like it's a lot to keep up on. And let's be real, statistically speaking, what is it? 50% of Americans can't even read, right? They're like illiterate. So that's sad, but at the same time, when we are looking at these hard to read, sometimes difficult to comprehend legal documents, a lot gets lost between what Payne is putting on paper and what he actually has as far as evidence goes. So far, nothing, right? And to make things even more confusing from the beginning, we know that Steve Gonsalves, again, he gave a lot of interviews out. He said a lot of things that, for example, could be misconstrued, right? Like when he mentioned something that the guy was close enough to connect to their Wi-Fi. So either that's untrue. We currently know that he only connected to very specific towers. And again, there's a huge, well, relatively huge shopping center for the area, right? And either he wants us to believe that as well, kind of like Payne does, or he's exaggerating. And some are going to argue, like, okay, this stop that was done by Sheriff Duke is only going to be used to prove that it was his phone number. But we don't need that to prove somebody's phone number. So that's not why they're using it. They're not using the stop just to prove that this was his phone number. We already know that this is his phone number. There are legal documents saying that this is his phone number, right? We don't need to prove that. They're actually trying to use this to suggest that Bryan Kohberger was near the house those 12 times or even other times, and really, again, in my opinion, law enforcement, I personally believe, already knows that he was very likely just at the mall or running errands, right? And Payne, again, it sounds like he's trying to tell us, look, but there's random white cars. There's random white cars that you cannot even see license plates out of. You cannot see the model. You cannot see who's driving it. It's got to be Bryan Kohberger, right? So it's very silly. Taylor says there's a height minimum. Yes, there's a cutoff weight for the military. I think that that's changed quite a bit. I know when I was in forever ago, they were much more strict with the body standards. And I believe that they have changed those standards to include higher body fat percentages, if I'm not mistaken. So pay attention to all these documents that are going to be dropped. We already understand, all of us here, most of us here, that the PCA is written like they took random pieces of random different puzzles and just threw them all together and like, ta-da, here we present our third grade PCA is what it looks like to me, right? We know that it's hugely biased. We know that it's worded in a way to link him to the victims versus linking him to the shopping center, which would be much more believable because we currently know, and the state has also themselves mentioned, that there are no links from Bryan Kohberger to the victims, right? And it makes us all wonder, I think, how reliable is this ping technology? As I mentioned a long time ago in the beginning of this channel, there have been several instances where people get into car accidents and the insurance tries to ping the phone of the person to send help, especially if it's in the middle of nowhere. And in this case of a woman who got into a horrible accident, it took like twice as long for the insurance to send help her way because they pinged her phone and they ended up sending the ambulance to a location that was 60 miles away from the accident, right? Because it just happened to connect to a tower that was way further from where the accident had actually physically taken place, right? That physical location. So it's just extremely unreliable. I think pings can be very unreliable. We also understand that if a tower is full, if a tower is not working, or for whatever reason, sometimes phones will connect to that tower. That being said, this traffic stop back in August 21st, 2022, there's a video, we can see Bryan's face. But again, look it up on Google Maps. If you pull up this area, you will see whole shopping center. Don't be fooled by what law enforcement, don't be fooled by what Detective Payne is trying to do here. And I think that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment, leave a like. Let me know how your day is going, and stay tuned because I hope to have another interesting video for you guys coming up very soon, right? Thank you guys for joining me in the chat. Bye-bye.